It's time for the Car Doctor on AM 950 WROL. Got a car question? Call us at 617-770-3030. That's 617-770-3030. Now, here's the Car Doctor, John Paul, on AM 950 WROL, the spirit of Boston.
And good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the spirit of Boston. Maybe you're listening on 100.3 FM. Maybe you're listening on the stream on WROLradio.com. Maybe you're listening on iHeartRadio. You can listen to us all kinds of. You can find podcasts all over the place in different places, so you can always find all of that as well. So there's plenty of places to listen to us and find out what's going on and talk to us about what's on your mind. Dennis is in the studio. Say hello, Dennis. Dennis? Hello?
Hello, Dennis.
Oh, there we go. I was a little worried for a minute. And
if I put up the pot.
There you go, yeah. Just so people... And by pot, you mean it's a controller that adjusts volume of things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But also, I'm not in the studio, and you wonder why, because, people that have listened to the program for a long time know I have a little cottage on Cape Cod in Dennisport, and we had a hurricane. Not a hurricane, a tornado. Who knew Cape Cod gets tornadoes? But I came down here last night to see what's going on, and it may get a little bit noisy because I noticed a neighbor was having a big tree cut down that was leaning on his house. So I went down to talk to the tree guy to see about, I have a lot of stuff all over my yard. A tree came down in my yard. Good news is it didn't hit the house. Bad news is, well, it's all over the place. So I'm talking to him about having getting that taken care of, and that's going to happen. So you may hear the sound of chainsaws and chippers during the program this morning. So I apologize for that. Well, I always like stories of entrepreneurs and people that change with the times and try to do different things. And with us on the phone is Gene Cortes. He is he owns a body shop out in New York, and I know Gene kind of a little ways through his daughter, who did PR for a bunch of different companies, including Quicks, who made a really good headlight cleaner and scratch remover. And she sent me a note about her dad's body shop, and it's kind of interesting because he had a body shop, but he wanted to find a better way to keep track of all the work he did within the shop. Gene, good morning, and welcome to the Car Doctor program here in Boston.
Good morning, Dennis. How are you?
Well, this is actually John, not Dennis, but it's okay. That's all right. That's all right. Good. Tell us a little bit about. You've been in the body business for how long?
I've been in this business since 1971, quite a bit, and I started back in the early stages. I also worked as an insurance adjuster for different insurance companies as an independent appraiser, and now presently I own Clarkstown International Collision in Manhattan, New York. And through the years and all that, running my body shop, I decided to put this program together called My Shop Traffic, which is working pretty good and lets me track every single thing in the shop. And using all the management programs, I found out that they were good, but not necessarily what a body shop really needs. There was a lot of things there that were not necessary. We just don't need them. We don't use them. So why pay for something that you're not using? Pay for what you need and what you use and what's going to be profitable to your business. And
that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And the idea of the body shop business, when you started back in 1971, it was a whole different business back then. You probably didn't have a fancy paint booth back then. You just ordered parts, and they ended up could probably see all the jobs you were working on because you're out in the shop all the time. You looked around and said, "Oh, we need to get a fender for this. We need to get trim for this. We need to get glass for this." And it was a whole different way to do business back then, right?
Totally different. I mean, it's done. Since then, it's done. I would say a 360, to say the least. And the way cars have changed, technology and everything else, it's just totally different. You can't, you could say I've been in this business for 30 years, 40 years. I know what I'm doing. Well, guess what? Things have changed, so you have to keep up with the times. And it's more about technology than anything else today. So running a body shop today is not the same that it was 30 years ago. Things have changed. It was a lot easier then. It's a lot more complicated now with the different paint manufacturers, computers to mix paint, computers to measure the frame of the car, and on and on. And the time a guy spending on a car as opposed to before, the guy that did the bodywork, did the plastic, did the primer, did the paint, did the assembly. Today is different. There's specialties in every department, and that's what separates the years of back then to now. This is totally different. There's no way you can compare it.
And back in the old days, too, it was a little different dealing with insurance companies. The insurance companies made, the insurance company, I assume your business, depends a lot on insurance companies and how they pay you. And you need to keep track of all the work you do to make sure you get paid the right amount, right?
Exactly. It used to be like insurance companies practically dictated back in the days. They came in, they say this job is $1,200, and that was it. You never go back for anything else. Today, you can never guesstimate a car. You have to write everything in black and white so you can see exactly how much time it takes, how much is the part, how much is the paint, on and on and on. And it's just totally different. Insurance companies now negotiate with you closer than they used to. And there's still insurance companies that are tough and they're set in their own ways, but it all depends on the shop owner, how professional he's running the shop, and that's how much respect he's going to get from the insurance companies.
And that, I'm sure, with your My Shop Traffic program, you're a body guy, you're a business guy, but are you a computer programmer?
No, I'm not. Far from it. But I happen to like technology. I happen to like computers. But what I did is I put this program together. I don't know if you remember what a Palm Pilot is.
Oh yeah.
I started with a paper pad, with a paper and a pad, and with a clipboard, and that's how I was keeping track of the cars that were coming in and out of the shop, and who was working on what and how much time to spend. The year was never accurate. I mean, as much as you try. Yeah, and then I figured, let me try it the other way. So I put it on a Palm Pilot, and then from there I move on to where we are today. I hire a computer programmer. I told him what I wanted, and the difference between this program and the other one is the fact that this was done by a body shop for a body shop. So I understand the pain that we go through, and that the other body shops are going through, and I can sympathize with them. So I put together what we need to operate in a body shop. Not what we don't need. Let's stick to what we need, and that's it. And this is what the program is all about. So when I hired this guy, I happen to be very fortunate. I hired the right guy because he works with me hand in hand every single day, and every update it's done through the web. You don't have to, whoever's using the program doesn't have to depend on a CD or loading. You can access the program from anywhere in the world where you have internet access. It makes it so much simpler to run your body shop today. You don't have to be in here like I used to be every time.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I don't pretend to know how the body shop business works other than being in them from time to time, but one of the things about body shops, just like mechanical repair parts, mechanical shops, it's all about wasting inventory too. It's about, did you order stuff you didn't need? Do you have too much of something? Do you have not enough of something? Does your program help with that? Does it help Shop Traffic? Does it help make sure you have what you need when you need it, and not more than what you need?
Absolutely. When you order your materials, you order it with a scanner, and it's telling you, in the computer, it's telling you how much of it you got, how much you ordered, and it helps you keep track of everything that you're ordering every day. And that's the other part that helps the shop owner. If he wants to take a vacation and he goes away, he wants to find out what they ordered yesterday, but he's not there. All he just got to do is pull out his smartphone or iPad or laptop, and he can look at what they ordered yesterday, what they ordered today, what's been used, what's not being used. That's a big plus right there. And also inventory of parts. Like when we buy used parts, a lot of times we get a used door, and the door comes with, let's say, a glass or a mirror. But we don't need that glass of the mirror. We used to put it on the corner. It's okay, I'm going to save it here for when that car comes. When another car like this one comes back, I have it here. But guess what? When that car came, you had no idea that you had that. So you wind up with a room or a corner loaded with parts that eventually you're going to have to pay for a dumpster to throw them away. Now you don't. Because now when the parts come in, you mark them as inventory, you put a barcode on it, and then when you open up the program, if that car came in, and let's say it was 2017 Mercedes C300 came in, and you put it in your system, a little red icon, which is a little car, is going to pop up, letting you know that you have parts available for this car. So guess what? That room that you had full of parts that you never knew were there, now you know what they are. So that's by itself is a moneymaker. Between that, the inventory of the materials, I found that I wanted to run the shop profitable, but not with a guessing game. I wanted to be accurate, and that's exactly where you're at with this program. My shop helps you keep the stuff, intact.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because I know when I worked as a mechanic, one of the best guys I worked for. He was a great guy, but he had a room of what turned into junk eventually, because it was like, oh, we better hold on to this, we better hold on to these pulleys, we better hold on to this alternator, we better hold on to the starter. Oh, the bracket for the starter, that's important, because sometimes you get one in that's broken, and it's special order, and instead of going to the junkyard, we'll hold. And we tried to, everybody tries to mark stuff with paint and a crayon, and it ends up being a big pile of junk, and when you go to look for it, you can't find it anyway, and you end up buying it. So you bought it twice that way. So that's so good. So this program sounds like that hey, wait, I have like you said, I have a side mirror for a 2017 Mercedes, and I know where it is, and when another one comes in, I'm ready to be able to use that rather than have to buy it twice.
Right, and every body shop, it's got that corner. The mechanical shop, repair shops, body shop, they're all going to have that corner there. So that's how we eliminate that and keep the shop clean, keep it organized, and make a profit on everything that we do and touch. The other part is when a technician is working on a car, he's going to log in, and as soon as he logs in on that car, he puts the function that he's doing. I know exactly what he's doing on that car and how long he's been on that job. Let's say Joey logs in for the 2017 Mercedes C300, and he's going to do body work. So as soon as he logs in and he puts the job number, it says body work. When he finishes that job and he logs into another one, it takes that one out. But at the end of the day, I know how many jobs Joey did, how much time he spent on each job, what was my profit on that job. So you get to know if you're making money on a job or not. So you're tracking every single little thing that they do.
Can you use your program, like a lot of times when you're working on a job and the adjuster comes in, they look at it, and then you end up having to call the adjuster back because you found some hidden damage. Does the program help you to negotiate with the adjuster when it's like, hey, look, you wrote it for this, but my guy's here and he's been working, and found this and this. Does it help you with that negotiation with the insurance adjuster?
Well, it's going to help you, and it's also going to help you when the adjuster says, no, that's really a 3-hour job. Well, this is a 3-hour job. This is a very good technician that has been on it. And I can show you on the clock how long it took him. It took him 4.5 hours to do it on the dot. So you haven't done the job. How can you tell me it's 3.5? We can only know exactly how much it takes until he's done.
Yeah.
Because it's going to track all of that there. Yeah. And also, when they're riding a car, they're working on the car, and they find additional damage. If I'm not around, or the production manager's not around, they just take out their smartphone, they take a picture, and the picture goes right into the system. So that picture comes into the office, and they're looking at it. Everybody gets to see that picture of the additional damage that was found. It's a way of tracking down everything.
The only thing that sounds bad about your program is that that if you go on vacation and the shop's still running like always, you're going to be watching. You might not go on vacation. You might be busy making sure the shop's still running and not relaxing by the pool.
That all depends on you. When I go away, I just go away. I don't look back. Once in a while, when I'm taking a break at night, that I'm tired from going out and all that, you sit down on your laptop, you take a look at this, you take a look at that. But, it's going to help you if you want to send a message to your production manager on certain jobs. You can just send him a task. You don't have to talk to him. You just go into the system, put a task, and he'll get it within seconds. Let's say you forgot. Oh, my gosh, I forgot that I promised Joey that I was going to do the left rear quarter panel.
Yeah.
I was going to take care of it, and we're working on the front car. Let me just send him a task right now. Boom, and it's done. So, yeah, you can become a slave of everything, not just this here. I mean, it's like everything. Today there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 job. Those days are gone. But you can control it. That's up to you. I mean, the program is going to do everything you want it to do, but it's not going to stop you from working 24 hours. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You got to do that yourself.
Yeah. No, that's a good. That's a good point. But it sounds. I mean, what I really like about this, and you said it exactly right, is you started in the business when it was a little bit different. You saw how you needed to make a change. You saw all these different programs that were supposed to help you that probably were written by computer programmers, not people that work in body shops, and they added all this extra stuff that you didn't need. And you said, you know what, those programs are okay, but I don't need some of the stuff it has. So you sat down with somebody and said, I want to build a program to make my job better, my business more profitable. I want to be smarter at what I do, and this is, and rather than wait for someone to do it, you did it on your own.
Exactly. That's exactly the way it is. And again, it's the time saver. You don't want to pay for something that you don't use.
Yeah.
So when I was using all the programs, I could see that I'm not knocking them, they were good, but why do I need this? Why do I need that? It's irrelevant. And right now, I don't need that. What I need is to run my business and run it profitable, and that's it. No more, no less.
No, it sounds like the smart way to go. The name of the program is called My Shop Traffic, and and people can go the website if businesses, body shops, and I know we have some body shops that listen to the program all the time, and if they want more information, it's myshoptraffic.com is the website, right?
Right, and you go to the website, you can do a 3-minute demo, and if you're interested, then you just get in touch with us, send an email, or there's an inquiry ask there that you could do, and we'll get it, and we'll get in touch with you, and we'll give you a telephone demo. We can do a demo with you that lasts around half an hour to 45 minutes on the program, and explain it in more detail. Exactly the questions that the body shop asks, what it does, what they want to do, and it doesn't matter where they're located. They could be located in California, they could be located in Alaska. We still can do it. Hawaii, It doesn't matter. It's all web-based.
Yeah.
The other part is,
go ahead.
You could do it with the hardware that you have presently. You don't need any new hardware. If you wanted to add some, then you're welcome to. But you don't need to buy new hardware. So you don't need to be adding additional computers to your shop or this or that.
No, that's good to know. And the fees involved, is it a one-time fee, a yearly fee, a monthly fee? How's it work?
It's a monthly fee.
Okay.
You pay monthly. There's no contract, so you can come in, you try it. If you don't like it, you get out. If you like it, I mean, if you want to sign a 1-year contract, then we have a sale that you get 14 months for the price of 12 months.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. No, this like I said, this sounds like one of those programs that it was created for all the right reasons. You hear so many times that some things get created. My wife years ago used to work in a supermarket, and she did. Her job was to make sure the stuff, when it went across the scanner, scanned it the right thing. And they would come up with all these new computer programs, but no one who wrote the program ever did the job. So they would look, and she'd say, "This is not going to work. This is not going to work. This isn't going to work." And she wasn't a computer person. She was just somebody who said, "I do this 8 hours a day, every day. I know that this is what we need to do." So they started calling her when they started to do the stuff to try to get it to work. And you were smart enough. You said, "You know what? I'm gonna try to get something that works for me."
Right. And I tell you the truth, ever since I put this program together, well, I've been working on it almost 12 years.
Yeah.
I just put it on the market back in November, but I've been working on the program for 12 years, so I know a lot of things that I didn't like. I took them out, then I added more. I took out, so I kept on refining the program as we went on, and I find that it gives me a lot more free time from the shop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it keeps everybody in the shop happy because they know where they are, they know what they're doing, and whether the body shop is working hourly, or they're paying hourly or salary, or they're paying flat rate, either one works good for them. It's going to be a world of difference for a body shop once they see that they can track every single little thing in the shop without going crazy. In my shop, I keep 2 big screens so that even the technicians are looking at what they're doing and how long they're getting the car. So at the end, it becomes a friendly competition between one guy and the other one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They see how many hours you go. Oh, look, I'm faster than you. I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
And it just, without them realizing it, it's helping me.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. It sounds good, but it also sounds like some computer programs you almost have to hire a separate person just to do all the work. But this sounds like it's stuff that you do every day. You just enter it into the computer rather than have to hire a full-time person to make sure they enter all the stuff and make sure everything works. It even sounds like it would work good if you had a little 3-person body shop or a little custom shop that just did custom work and not collision work. It sounds like it would work whether it's 3 people or whether it was 35 people.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned custom work because I have a shop in Colorado, and they do restoration work, and they use it because restoration work is something very hard to price. When the car comes in, it's hard to price because you start the car, you stop, you go back, you do something else, and then you stop, and sometimes the car will be there 1, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. I personally do restoration for those who do. This is awesome because now you can track down every single hour that you put on the car. And you had to tell the owner, okay, listen, I got 150 hours in your car at X amount of dollars. This is what it's going to cost. And you have it down in black and white. It's not a guessing game. It helps the shop create a better relationship with the customer because now the customer sees, well, this shop is honest. This is what they did. This is what they're charging me for. And it also helps the body shop not guess. Now he's playing 100%. Because when you're guessing, okay, I think Johnny put 6 hours yesterday in this car. I'm not sure, yeah, 5, 6 hours, something like that. Yeah. So this is down to the minute, to the seconds.
No,
the other good part of it, John, is that the guys in the shop are the ones when they clock in, they're the ones moving the car. In other words, from body work to primer to prep to paint to assembly to detail. And once they clock in, it's going right into the office, and the girl in the front desk, or the person, I should say, in the front desk, will see it and say, okay, this is what the car is at. So now when Mr. John Doe calls up, wants to find out where his car is, the girl doesn't have to run after the shop manager or the shop owner. I got Mr. John Doe on the phone. He wants to find out when his car is going to be done. So they're looking at it. Okay, so your car is in detail. So if everything goes well, the car should be done this afternoon. And this is something that has helped my front staff a whole bunch. It saves time running around looking for the person, because they used to look for me all around.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
My shop is a good sized shop, so it would take them sometimes 5-10 minutes. Meanwhile, the poor person is on the phone. That's bad business. And you have to keep somebody on the phone for so long. You want to get them on the phone and get them out. The other good portion is that if the owner agrees, this program will automatically text them and tell them what stage the car is on.
Wow.
It all depends on the owner. You want a text message? Yeah, please send me a text message. Okay, your car is in body work, your car is in primer, your car is in prep, on paint, and on and on. And they've been every step of the way. They've been notified, and that's something that eliminates phone calls. And you'd be surprised how much it raises your reviews. Because people live and die by reviews today, but it helps you get a lot of. It's going to bring you from a 3-star to a 5-star in no time, because they're going to like what they see and what customers like to be updated on what they got.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right in having that communication. And again, the program is myshoptraffic.com. People can, if they want to contact you, it's info@myshoptraffic.com. They can go on the website. They can see a little video. They can have you guys do a demo on it, and they know that this isn't a program that a bunch of it's a program that was built and designed for the body shop industry by a guy who owns a body shop. What more can you want than that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just something that the shops will be shocked to see the difference. In a month, you'll see the difference. In 2 months, you'll see the difference of how your shop is running.
Yep. No.
And when you were losing, then now you're making profit up.
No, it makes perfect sense. Gene, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your Saturday and giving us a little bit of an education, what goes on in the body shop business and ways to make that business a little bit easier.
Well, I should talk to you, John. Anytime you want to do something or need something, let me know.
I will.
To help you
All
out.
right. All right. Thanks, Gene.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
You take care
Have a
now.
nice day.
Bye-bye. That was Gene Cortes. He is the owner of a body shop out in New York, and this program, myshoptraffic.com. I always, just the idea behind the story. The story is that he's a body shop guy. He's been doing it since 1971. He was saying, and he said, you know what? It's time for me to, maybe try to make my shop business a little bit smarter. I mean, I hate these business expressions like work smarter, not harder, and all that sort of stuff. But in this case, he really is working smarter. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to work on this program. I'm going to work on this program. I'm going to work on it. And what I'm going to do when I'm going to try to make it into another business where I can sell, where I can help other body shops. And of course, he's selling a product, and that's good. But the idea that you're buying it monthly, there's no subscription, and you give it a shot. Try it for a month, try it for 2 months, try it for 3 months. If you have a body shop and you find out that maybe it does help you keep track of inventory, it does keep track of all your work. And he brought up a good point. If you want to, if the customer who owns the car wants to be up to date on what's going on, so in other words, I want to know when my car is going into primer. I want to know when it's going into the paint booth. When we had Franny on from the body shop over there in Brockton that did a little work for me, the last step of his job was they send it to his detail shop and they make the car look like brand new. They detail the whole car, clean the tires, clean the wheels, so it looks like the brand new car that you had before it got into a problem. And to know that all of a sudden you get a text message to say your car's in detailing and it'll be ready for you to pick up tomorrow or today or whatever the case is, he's right. He said people live and die by these Yelp reviews and Facebook reviews and all this sort of stuff. And as much as I think a lot of it's nonsense, a lot of people look at it at the same time. So if you can keep that line of communication open with your customers, so you're not having to call up and go, hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? It seems like it makes a lot of sense. So if you're a body shop out there and you're interested, or you know somebody that owns a body shop, or you're going to be listening to the podcast online, and like Gene said, if you're in Alaska or Florida or Chicago, or maybe internationally even, any place there's the internet, myshoptraffic.com is the name of the program. And and again, I like the idea. And when I was talking to Melly, his daughter, and she's working for him now, not doing body work, but doing some of this stuff, and she said something to me. I said, it's, I just kind of want to talk to Gene, like, we just met in a coffee shop somewhere, and I said, hey, what do you do? And, tell me what you do. And that's kind of what this was all about. Why don't we take a break, pay some bills? My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. You're listening on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston.
Well, the other day I went out in my rig to some Saturday tracks that I heard was big.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston. I was kind of listening to that music going, and I know Dennis doesn't choose the music anymore. It just pops up automatically, but what was that?
I believe that's the Ramones.
That's kind of what I thought, and I was sort of shocked. But I know you're kind of a Ramones fan, right?
I'm a very light Ramones fan, yes. I know their hits.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
That was a quasi-hit for him. I just don't know the name of it.
Yeah, I have no idea. I would be hard-pressed to know any names of their songs, but Joey Ramone sounded like an interesting character. But anyways, there's a company called CarMD. We've talked to them before, but CarMD Corporation released its latest state ranking of check engine light-related car repair costs. And interesting, the District of Columbia has the most expensive check engine repairs. And vehicle owners in Ohio paid the least for car repairs in 2018. So the same repair in the District of Columbia costs $414, and if you're in New Jersey, you could save about $15. Not a lot, but the second most expensive is Connecticut, followed by California and Georgia, of all places. Kind of interesting. But car repair costs are up. There's no question about it. The average cost to repair a check engine light these days in Ohio is $354, which is nearly 6% higher than the previous year. Ohio paid $335 on average for parts and labor. The average cost to repair a check engine light in Washington, D.C. was almost $415, up 3% from the year before. Labor costs for the third consecutive year in a row, Vermont owners had the lowest average labor cost at $134 when, surprisingly, the most common cause of a check engine light in cars and trucks in Vermont was a loose or missing gas cap, which I kind of wonder why it cost $134 to figure out the gas cap was loose. But anyway, drivers in Mississippi paid the most labor. Again, sort of odd. Mississippi isn't where I think high labor costs would be, at $163. And in Mississippi, and again, why this would be, ignition coils and spark plugs and ignition-related problems are a bigger issue than in Vermont, where you had a loose gas cap. The most common vehicle to be repaired in Vermont was a Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck. In Mississippi, it was a 2004 F-150. Connecticut had the most expensive parts. Michigan paid the least expensive for parts. Don't know why, even though you would think they're made there, but they're not. The type of vehicle to repair and whether original equipment parts are used factor into average repair costs. In Connecticut, the vehicle needing the most check engine related repairs was a Nissan Altima. I was automatically thinking that, Connecticut's a pretty affluent state, especially when you get down to Fairfield County. I wasn't thinking it was a 12-year-old Nissan Altima. In Michigan, Ford still does pretty good in Michigan. It was a 2004 F-150. Good by meaning, I guess, they sell a lot of Fords in Michigan still. But it's kind of interesting the way this all worked. And again, if you're going to get your car repaired, the most expensive place to get it repaired is the District of Columbia, and it gets a little bit cheaper where you are. Massachusetts, right in the middle, 29th state. If you're listening in, if you're wondering where some of the other states fall here in New England, let's see here. You would think New Hampshire falls number 44th, Vermont 47th, like I said, Connecticut number 2, and California is right under that. You would think, and Florida is kind of down on the list a little bit. I would have thought, and maybe Florida is a little bit less expensive because of labor costs. I mean, here in Massachusetts, labor's a little bit higher. Even minimum wage is higher. I think Florida minimum wage is still like $7 or $8 an hour. New Hampshire is right near the bottom of the list at 44. So, and Rhode Island's near the top of the list, actually at number 16. So it's a little bit more expensive to get your car fixed in Rhode Island than it is in Massachusetts. Not by a lot, but enough to make a little bit of a difference in the chart. So, when people look at statistics, I mean, they're interesting the way they always come up and the way you kind of look at them. Remember, if you're up in the Shrewsbury area at the Hebert Candy Mansion today is the big Volkswagen Dune Buggy show. So if you're up in that area, take a swing in and well, first off, get an ice cream while you're there. Get a box of chocolates while you're there. But look at all the dune buggies. Look at all the Volkswagens that are there. If you're a fan of air-cooled stuff, whether it's Volkswagen Beetles, microbuses, some of the weird wagons that they had back then. Volkswagen, everybody kind of thinks of the Beetle, but they also had some other kind of odd. Something about a station wagon with the engine in the back where you could almost see it and smell it never seemed like a good idea to me, or it was almost in the cabin. But if you like dune buggies too, there's going to be a bunch of dune buggies, the Deserter, depending on how you pronounce it, owners group, kind of a local dune buggy body made in Massachusetts. They're having their reunion at the Hebert's Candy Mansion in conjunction with the Bug Club group up there. So if you're in the area, go check it out and see what it's all about. I think you'll find it's pretty interesting. And I was at a little car show last Saturday, and I mentioned last Saturday I was driving the new Toyota Supra. And the new Toyota Supra is an interesting car. It uses a BMW drivetrain, so a 6-cylinder, 330 horsepower or so engine connected to an 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission rear-wheel drive vehicle, and they built their version of the Supra body all over the drivetrain. The story is with the Supra that the engineer who designed it and says they never actually did any comparisons with the BMW. He never drove a BMW Z4, never drove a BMW 3 Series or 4 Series that would have the same car in it. He wanted to tune it to be a Toyota Supra and not a BMW. And my feeling on the car was it did actually ride a little bit differently. I thought it handled phenomenally. But a couple interesting things. As we were leaving the radio station last Saturday morning, I look over and there's a guy with a digital SLR camera taking all kinds of pictures of the car. And younger guy, probably in his 30s, I'd say. And I said to him, where did you come from exactly? And he lives in one of these new high-rise apartments that is in Marina Bay. And he said, well, I went out in my balcony and looked out, and I saw it down there. I grabbed my camera to run down and take pictures of it because I'd never seen one before. And that's how passionate people are about the Supra. So then I took it to a little car show last Saturday night down here on the Cape in Dennis, at the Stop and Shop parking lot. The Cape Cod Cruisers, I think, is the name of the group. And, excuse me, and I was pulled in, and the woman at the gate waved me in so I could put it on display. I actually got a dash plaque for attending, which was kind of neat. And so I came in, and I washed it and all wiped it down so it looked nice and clean when I pulled it in. And I just left it there, and I wanted to see reaction to what people thought of the car. And it wasn't a big night because it was if you remember last Saturday, the weather wasn't great, and so people came out, and there was a combination of everything from hot rods to a couple vintage cars to actually a desert or dune buggy that was there that I told him about the car show up at the Candy Mansion. And he said he was going to maybe see about getting his car up there to put it on display. And he had the classic dune buggy with the roll bar and the surfboards attached to the roll bar and over the windshield, so it kind of looked kind of interesting to look at. But I left it there, and I was just talking to people, and people were looking at it, and people wanted to look under the hood and look around, and a lot of them didn't know it had a BMW drivetrain. People really were pretty passionate about the car of all ages. The one person that was disappointed, a younger guy, and he had somebody younger with him too. So I want to say 30s maybe, and he had somebody with him that could have been his brother that was maybe in his 20s. And they showed up in a right-hand drive Nissan Skyline or Datsun Skyline, whatever you want to call it, which was the high-performance car that if you ever saw the Fast and Furious movies, that was the one that was in the first Fast and Furious movie, and that also was a big video game car. It was a pretty subtle looking car, but it had sort of a 240Z engine in it. It was pretty legendary as a performance car in Japan, and he actually imported one from Japan. They're old enough now where you can import them under antique categories, and he imported it. And he looked at he got out of it and just kind of walked by and just didn't say anything. And I've been walking around the show a little bit, and he came back and I said, of all people, I thought you'd be all over this. But he was one of those people that didn't show a lot of emotion. And then once I started to talk to him, he's like, this car's pretty cool. This is. So he was actually pretty interested in how it all went and what it all did. So it was interesting. And then the car show was partially sponsored by Orleans Auto Parts. And the guy from Orleans Auto Parts came over, and I was showing him the car and talking to him about it and letting him know the car wasn't mine. It belonged to Toyota. It had nothing to do with. They asked me to drive it for the weekend, and I thought this was a good way to see what people thought about the car. And he came over and he said to me, "I really want to thank you for bringing the car to the show. I talked to some people, and they hadn't seen one before. And even there was a guy from the Toyota dealer in Hyannis who said, we have one on order, but I don't know when it's coming in." So he said, "This is the first one I've ever seen." So it was kind of fun to do all that and let people kind of enjoy the car. Down in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, our friends at the Newport Car Museum have partnered with Rail Explorers and Newport Helicopter Tours to offer discounts for visitors who want to try 2 or all 3 of these unique experiential outings, which are some of the. It's a pretty popular attraction. So you get a discount card. It gets stamped by the first attraction you visit to take it to the next attraction. So you've probably done that in discount stores or stores where there's there's an outlet store, and you go to the next one and you get a discount kind of thing. So same idea. So you go to the Newport Car Museum, you get a discount off a full price ticket. Then if you want to go on the Newport helicopter tour, you get $10 off of any flight. And then they have something called Rail Explorers. And Rail Explorers is kind of well, it sounds like kind of a lot of work, but it's basically one of those hand-operated rail cars. And on some of the old railroad tracks, and you get to kind of go up and look at and kind of go along the railroad track. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people think it's real interesting, so you can find out more information about that. The Newport Auto Museum is in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Regular admission is $18 for adults, $15 for seniors, military students. $8. Kids 5 to 15 with an adult are free, and ages 5 to 15 is the same as students and military, and kids 4 and under are free with an adult. So, in the Newport Car Museum, we got to talk to Gunther again because he's added some more cars down there. But the Newport Car Museum's handicap accessible. Hours are 10 to 4, Monday through Sunday. Tickets can be bought on the door or check out their website. You can buy tickets there at newportcarmuseum.org. Speaking of car museums in Newport, there's the Audrain Museum, which I don't know much about, but apparently AAA has come up with a partnership that we are going to be doing something with them, where we're a sponsor of something called the 30 Under 30. So it's 30-year-olds that have spent no more than $30,000 on their car project, and I guess we may be partially judging the event, and we're going to hand the trophy out. And apparently Jay Leno was a judge. Well, we'll find out what that's all about. I'll give you more information. I find out more about it. I just heard just a little bit about it and kind of learned a little bit more about it. GM is giving up on diesel crossover vehicles 3 years ago. Amid the void left by Volkswagen emissions scandal, General Motors declared its intention to be the new U.S. leader in diesels. There's a lot of diesel intenders and diesel oil people who are looking for a brand and vehicles to go after. GM Vice President for Global Propulsion Systems said at an industry conference back about 3 years ago GM was going to be all diesel. Well, this is where... I always said if I had a nickel for everybody who said they wanted a diesel engine in a small SUV, I want a diesel engine in a car, I want a diesel engine in a little station wagon, I want a diesel engine with a standard transmission. Well, you know what would happen if I had a nickel for everyone who said that? I'd have a lot of nickels. If I had a nickel for everyone who bought one, I wouldn't have any nickels. It seemed like people were a lot of talk about that and really didn't do much about it for some reason. And I was the same way. I thought a lot of people would want them, but apparently not. Hey, do you ever think about a 2,000 horsepower car? Well, Lotus is seeking to reestablish itself as a global engineering and sports car powerhouse under its new parent, and everything's owned by Chinese companies now. It's Geely Holdings, which I believe are the same people that own Volvo. They unveiled a Halo car. It's a 2,000 horsepower full electric hypercar. There's only going to be 130 of them made. Only Dennis can afford it because they're 2.1 million.
Yeah, I wish I could afford something like that. That'd be amazing.
Plus taxes. It's the most powerful series production vehicle ever built by the British car manufacturer. 2,000 horsepower. Come on. They said it will reestablish our brand in the hearts and minds of sports car fans in the global automotive stage. Lotus CEO Phil Poppen said the car was unveiled just this past few days, and they'll have just kind of models and clays and all that sort of stuff. But they said that despite the switch to electric, which increases weight because of batteries, they feel this will also be one of the fastest cars they ever built. They're confident in the 3,400-pound target weight. They'll be able to do that, and they claim it will achieve a range of about 250 miles between charges, and only because it's powered by 4 electric motors, so it sort of sounds like 500 horsepower per motor. It will go 200 miles an hour and go to 0 to 62 miles an hour in less than 3 seconds. They won't adjust the vehicle to U.S. standards, but the car will be available under show and display import rules, which limit the road miles at 2,500 a year. Well, if you got $2 million to go buy a car, I suppose, if you have that kind of money, I suppose you probably have more than one car, so you probably only are going to drive it a little bit of time and see what happens. If this all goes correctly, you know, the weather on the Cape has been a little weird this week, and I think we have Miriam Adams from Onstar to talk about that a little bit.
Well, this week's been a pretty wild week. We started off with 100-degree temperatures, and over the week we had some pretty severe lightning storms. In fact, in Cape Cod, they were tornadoes, and we saw 2 or 3 inches of rain. So I guess we're firmly into hurricane season. And with us on the phone is Marianne Adams. She is the OnStar Disaster Response Manager. Marianne, good morning, and thank you for joining us up here in Boston.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, I guess it is hurricane season, so what can I always think of OnStar as rescuing people that get flat tires and lock their keys in the car. Tell us how OnStar can help protect us all the time.
OnStar is there before, during, and after severe weather or natural disasters. So let's say you needed to evacuate an area. We can help you evacuate by giving you routing instructions. We can find hotel rooms for you or shelters of last resort. And during a disaster, if you are impacted and you need to get a hold of first responders, we can make that call for you in the event your cell phone's not working or your landline phone is not working. And afterwards, we can help you in terms of recovery. Let's say communications have been hampered. We can actually, you can press that button and we can make calls for you to help you stay connected to your loved ones.
So your system works a little different than others, where it isn't so heavily reliant on the cell phone systems around the country. Then
we are reliant on the cellular infrastructure. However, over the years, we've had people tell us that OnStar was the only thing that worked during those disasters, and so there's a high likelihood that you will be able to get through with OnStar during a disaster.
And, I mean, we've certainly had a fair amount of those around the country. Hurricane Irma certainly affected a lot of the Gulf Coast, along with Hurricane Harvey and others. And you guys were there to try to help with that, right?
We were, for sure. Our customers call us when they need help. A lot of people aren't prepared when a disaster comes about them, and so they're calling us at the last minute to help them evacuate. And actually, people get caught in flooded waters. They're driving through waters when they shouldn't be, and so they press the button and we can contact first responders to get out there and help rescue them. And there are a lot of different ways that we help people, including the communication. So again, it's before, during, and after the severe weather that we're there for our customers.
So if you are caught in a weather emergency, whether it's just a terrible downpour, a lightning storm, or something worse, a hurricane or a tornado, what kind of advice can you give our listeners?
Well, the first advice that I want to give your listeners is, one, pay attention to the weather every day so you can avoid those if you can. Adjust your schedule. If you can leave a little bit earlier or later to get around those storms, that's the number one thing that you want to do. And if you happen to be caught in your vehicle out on the road during a severe weather event, see if you can find shelter, and that could be any sturdy building that's around you. And if you can't find a sturdy building, then you're going to want to make sure that you pull over, put your flasher lights on, make sure that it's a safe area, and you want to stay down in your vehicle in the event that any severe weather passes over and impacts you.
And when it comes to thunder and lightning storms, a car is actually a pretty safe place to be because of the metal structure that sort of protects you and the electricity goes to ground. But that can also be the case in some of these other storms as well. But if it looks like there's serious flooding coming, can you push the OnStar button and say, hey, I'm heading to Georgia over the next day or so, and can the OnStar operators give people an idea what the weather is going to be like over the next day or so?
They can help you with the weather for sure. But again, what you want to do is make sure that you plan ahead and look at that weather. So as you know, weather can change at any time. So if there is severe weather going on and you're not quite sure how severe it is when you're traveling, just press that button and our advisors can tell you if there's a weather warning in your area.
Yeah, I know one of my radio coworkers has an Escalade, and one of the reasons he bought it, besides it's a big, comfortable vehicle, is OnStar, because a few years ago he had a serious heart incident, and he is convinced that being able to hit that OnStar button is one of the most valuable things for him.
There are many individuals that we've helped save who have a medical emergency in their vehicle, and that's what that red button is there for. Also, if the vehicle is in a collision, the vehicles contact us automatically and no button has to be pressed. And more importantly, the advisors that are at the other end of that call are all emergency medical dispatch trained. So they can give you medical advice while we're contacting 911 and first responders to get there. So we can give you that medical instruction to potentially save your life.
Mm. Now, OnStar's available all over the world. Is there any, and a little bit off topic, is there any part of the world that they hit the OnStar button more often than others?
That's I
remember
a good question.
years ago, I remember it used to be China. China hit that OnStar button apparently more than anybody.
We do, our China customers do press the button more frequently, but we press the button frequently in North America as well.
Yeah, I bet we do. If people want to find out more information both about OnStar and disaster preparedness, where can they go?
They can go to onstar.com to find out more information about building a kit, making a plan, and being better informed about severe weather and natural disasters.
Isn't that important? I guess like the Boy Scouts always used to say, plan for the worst and hope for the best. So having a disaster kit always there in case there's an emergency is always the best thing to do. And go to your site and check it out and find out what it is.
Exactly. The more prepared you are, the better off you're going to be on the other side of that disaster.
Absolutely. Well, we'll hope for no disasters, but we'll prepare for them just in case. And, Marianne, thank you for taking some time out of your Saturday morning and joining us up here in Boston.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being with you today.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Why don't we take a break, pay some bills? My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. You're listening on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston. We'll be right back.
Have you heard the story of the hot rod race with the Fords and the Lincolns was setting the pace? That story is true.
And today I don't have the fastest set of wheels in town. I'm actually driving a Mazda 6, and what a nice car it is. It's this combination of, I think, best kept secret. If you're looking for a sedan, and you like everybody else, you're looking at a Camry or a Honda Accord, or buy a Ford before Ford stops selling sedans, or something else. You owe it to yourself to look at the Mazda 6. The Mazda 6, it handles well. It's a 4-cylinder engine. It makes plenty of power though. It rides really well. It's economical. It's comfortable to be in. It's one of those cars that I keep forgetting about, and I think that's part of the problem. But it is a nice car. But it's not the fastest set of wheels in town. Our phone number is 617-770-3030. I know we've kind of taken up a lot of time today with Gene from the Body Shop Business and our friend from OnStar. But let's talk to George. Good morning, George.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I wanted to ask your opinion about tires.
Sure.
So my wife has a 2008 Toyota Highlander Limited. The mechanic noticed it's starting to get cracks in a sidewall. I don't know if you can recommend brands, but I was wondering what type of tires I should be looking for this vehicle. What's important to look for when I go to purchase tires?
Well, I mean, this is kind of a silly answer, I guess, but it's what year Highlander is it again?
It's a 2008.
Yeah, and the tires that are on it, how long have they been on it?
They've been on it 4.5, almost 5 years.
5 years. You've been pretty happy with what's on it?
They're okay. Yeah, they're Unoil.
Yeah. I'm if I have to pick the best tire on the planet, still I'm a fan of Michelin. I think with Michelin, when my old car, the old Hyundai Santa Fe I had, when I thought I was going to keep it, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it exactly, but I knew the tires that were on it were getting kind of thin. And I thought I was going to keep it, and I said, you know what? I want tires that are going to be trouble free. I had some fantasy that, if someday if I ever retire, that car may be a car that would sit maybe down in Florida somewhere, and I wanted tires that were going to be trouble free. And I said, if you want something like that, you can't go wrong with Michelin's. Michelin's make good tires. They've been making tires forever. They're always trouble free tires. You might not get the most mileage out of them. Some other tires actually get better overall mileage, but as far as being round and don't lose air and just good quality tires, you're always going to go with Michelin. But I don't know that there's a terrible bad tire around anymore. And your Highlander, it's all-wheel drive. It's pretty good in the wintertime. A good all-season tire, whether it's Uniroyal or Firestone or Bridgestone, I think you're going to do okay. The only thing I might stay away from is some of the really low-cost Chinese tires, only because they're fine for a while, and Saloon is one of them. It's kind of an economy tire, and it's one of those things that, to some extent, you get a little bit of, you get what you pay for, sort of thing. And they look good. Their stopping distance isn't quite as good. Some of the other tires, like Kumho's and some of the other Asian tire manufacturers, have actually turned out to be really good. The tires I had on my old car before, might have even been that car. I guess might have been that car. The tires I had on before that were Kumho's, and I actually had really good luck with them, and they performed pretty well. They performed great in wet weather. They performed pretty good. They perform really good in dry weather. Where they didn't perform that well is in like a half an inch of snow. For some reason, in a half an inch of snow, they weren't quite as grippy as they should be. Wet weather, they were fine. Dry weather, they were outstanding. A little tiny bit of snow, they weren't that good. And when I ended up selling the car, when I decided to buy something new instead, the woman who bought the car said she brought it to her mechanic, had it checked out, and her mechanic said, this thing's going to need tires in a few thousand miles. They're down to 430 seconds or so a tread. And I said, but just so happens, I have 4 brand new Michelins I was going to put on the car, and never ended up doing it. I said, for an extra few $100, you can have the Michelins to go with it. So again, I'm kind of a fan of Michelins only because they tend to be one of the most trouble-free tires on the road, but you pay more for them. The other thing I do, it never hurts to do a little bit of comparison, and like websites like TireRack.com, you can go on their website and kind of read about what other people think of a particular tire, and that's not such a bad way to go either. So just see what other people, how they kind of rate the tires they bought and see what they think of them. That's not bad. But again, I'm sort of to some extent, I'm a name brand tire guy, only because before I came to work at AAA, 3.5 decades ago, I got the first place I ever really got a real job was at a Uniroyal tire store, and the Uniroyal tire store taught me a lot about tires because back then, Uniroyals had a 20,000 mile tire, a 30,000 mile tire, a 40,000 mile tire, and back then they also had plain old bias ply tires because that's how long ago it was. And the Uniroyal tires, I saw good and bad out of those. There were some tires that quality control wasn't terrific. And then I ended up I left there and went to another tire store. And then the last few years before I ended up coming to work at AAA, I worked at Sullivan Tire, and they were a big Goodyear dealer. And I really started to appreciate Goodyear tires as being a good quality tire too. Because you get to see the ones that didn't do so well, and the Goodyear tires always did for the most part, did pretty well. So again, Goodyear's a good choice, but a good all-season tire. Look at the ratings on the side of the tire; they'll give you temperature and tread wear. Don't be so swayed by the tread wear rating. Be more concerned about temperature and traction. You want the A ratings on those, because you want a tire that's going to give you good traction. Every tire today lasts 40,000 miles, so that's not the part. It's, you want to make sure it does a good job. So again, I'm kind of a name brand person when it comes to tires. Michelin, Bridgestone, Goodyear, and again, I tried a set of Kumos just to see what they were like, and they were actually pretty impressive. And that's actually what's on my latest car. It came from the factory that way, and they were okay. They're relatively quiet. I want a quiet tire on a car, and I want one that's going to give me a little bit of traction in the wintertime, so it's going to be okay. That help?
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, George.
I value your opinion, and have a great weekend.
All right, I appreciate it, George. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
617-770-3030, 617-770-3030 is our number. 4 years later, more than 15 million vehicles still equipped with dangerous airbags. At AAA, we're urging drivers to take action on the Takata recall. Despite the national recall issued back in 2015, there's some 15 million vehicles in the United States that are still equipped with Takata airbags that still pose a risk. Takata airbag repairs are made free of charge at all dealerships across the country, but there's still nearly 17 million defective airbags on more than 15 million vehicles. We certainly encourage owners to take the recall seriously, get those airbags off the road now. There's no sense in being faced with what potentially could be a life-threatening or at least dangerous situation. AAA first raised concerns about the airbags several years ago, along with the National Highway Traffic Safety. The repair work itself can usually be completed in a few hours. That may not be particularly convenient, but go to the dealership, drop the car off, let them fix it. It makes sense. So far, more than two-thirds, about 40 million of the recalls have been repaired, leaving about one-third still needing to be done. The ones that are the most dangerous ones are some of the ones in the old Hondas that haven't been repaired yet. Drivers can check their vehicle by visiting the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration recall website. It's NHTSA.gov/recalls, and they can enter in the vehicle identification number, so that 17-digit number that's near the windshield or on your registration. You can put it in, and it will tell you whether your vehicle's under the recall and whether it's been done. On the recall side, it's useful for vehicle owners. You can track it, you can see what's going on, and you can get the repairs done. It really makes sense to do it, because chances are, if the airbag fails, and it may not have a problem, but why take a chance and let the manufacturer fix it? It's been a while. Hey, I got an email from our buddy Scott Gonzo Weaver, and Scott, and we call him Gonzo, but his real name's Scott. But Gonzo, years back, and not that many years back, ran a repair shop. And he specialized in the stuff nobody wanted to do, tricky electrical repairs, check engine light problems, stuff like that. And that was his specialty. And he's also a writer, instructor, lecturer. He kept his repair shop for about 35 years. He sold his shop. He still writes for Motor Age magazine and P10 magazine and for Haynes repair manuals. But when he was on the program, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago maybe, one of the reasons I wanted to have him on, because we're like everybody in the world, we're sort of friends on Facebook, and you kind of see what's going on. And Gonzo had a heart attack. And people of a certain age, and you can pick whatever that age is, you got to worry about that sort of stuff. And I said, this is kind of a good spin-off of, just like you have to take care of your car, you have to take care of yourself. And here's a guy who took care of everybody's cars, took care of everybody's problems, maybe didn't take care of himself so well. And I might fall into that same category. So I wanted to have him on and talk about the business and his business that he had and some of the tricky stuff he had. And he actually wrote a book called Hey, I Found the Loose Nut, which in the repair shop business, sometimes the joke was when someone came with a problem car, it was, hey, the problem's the loose nut behind the wheel. So the owner is sometimes the problem. But he wrote that book, and if you want to find out more about the book, it's gonzostoolbox.com. But he, on the show, he said, this is the first time I've mentioned it. He said, I'm going to sell my big piece of property. I'm going to sell my house, where my wife and I are thinking about buying a big motorhome, and we're going to travel the country and have fun, and we're going to retire. Well, this week on Thursday, he sends me an email. Hi, I just thought I'd say hi to you. It's been a while. Well, plans have changed again. Looks like the motorhome idea is out. My wife's knee is totally a mess. Her knee was removed 2 months ago because of an infection. We're waiting for the infection to run its course, probably another month or so, according to the doctors. Then she'll be able to get another knee put on. So the house sale and future plans are in limbo again. And he says to me, looks like we may just take off to Mexico or Portugal next year, maybe, which of course is based on medical issues. As far as the automotive world, I'm still writing and doing manuals for different companies, which I can continue even out of the country. Local job market is the pits. Unless you are 20-something and don't mind corporate BS and have a background of a 50-year-old with 30 years experience, it's tough to get a job. He says, I've stuck tons and tons of resumes out there and filled out numerous applications for everything from general manager to service writers, all of which come back with the usual, I'm sorry, but we're not considering you for this position. And he says, let's face the facts. It's my age. I'm over 60 with a medical history of open heart surgery. Then he goes, LOL, laugh out loud. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. You'd think someone with my background and qualifications wouldn't have a problem, but that's not the way it works out here. My wife and I are ready to pack it in. Our huge property with all the land to take care of in this big house are just too much work anymore. And I think he's got his own pond. I think he fishes in his own pond. And he says, time to take things at a different pace. So I imagine we'll be downsizing and throwing in the towel for a leisure life of tequila and tacos. Doesn't sound bad to me. In the meantime, I'll be writing and doing my usual conventions, radio spots. I can still do that. And he says, if you know of any writing gigs, let me know. Keep in touch. He says, I'll stay home and take care of the wife and work from the house just like I've been doing since I sold my shop. Keep in touch, Gonzo. And again, if you want to find out more information about his little tips and stuff, it's gonzostoolbox.com. But he's a good guy and kind of faced with a problem that a lot of people sometimes get faced with, that they're in the trade and they decide they either want to get out of it or they decide they get bored and want to get back into it and they have some trouble. I always thought that someday if I ever retire, doing something simple. It was funny. I did a little radio program down in South Attleboro this Tuesday or Wednesday, I forget which, Thursday actually. And the radio station is next to an auto parts store. So I walked by the auto parts store and the doors open, the delivery doors open, and there's three guys, probably about my age. And they're just talking about nonsense and parts and all of that. And I kind of looked at it and said, here's some guys that kind of like what they do. Doesn't seem to be a lot of pressure. They get to go in shops and kind of talk and see what's going on. They picked up a few parts. They drive around. They seem to be pretty happy. And I'm like, that's not a half bad retirement job. It doesn't seem a lot of pressure. Do it when you want. I don't know. Not a horrible idea. So, we'll have to see. Well, Florida, not like the rest of us.
Oh boy.
It wants to be the hotbed of autonomous vehicle technology. And this comes out of Orlando through Automotive News, and it says 50 years after Florida's rally for the moonshot, the state's government and industrial leaders have coalesced around the idea of breakthrough technology to be deployed closer to home. Executives and elected officials have sought to make Florida a hotbed of activity in the development of self-driving technology, a location as synonymous with the next generation transportation as Silicon Valley or Detroit. these efforts underway for years reached a crescendo in recent months. Last month, Starsky Robotics, a Silicon Valley startup, used a 9.5-mile stretch of Florida's turnpike to conduct the first test of a self-driving truck with no human on board in everyday traffic. Also in June, Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation to clarify definitions around automated vehicle technology and ensured the industry-friendly foundation for testing and deployment. Every other place they test self-driving vehicles, they have to have a safety driver on board. Florida, because it's not like the rest of us, said, you don't need to do that. You can just go let it go out and drive on its own. And maybe considering some of the weird crashes that happens down there, maybe having cars that drive themselves in Florida might not be a bad idea. But
and there's a couple theme parks that they can do stuff with.
That's right. So maybe just have a vehicle that goes to a theme park. Speaking of, not really a theme park, but in Las Vegas, AAA for a year sponsored a self-driving shuttle. And within the first day or two of it being out on the road, and it basically just drove up and down the strip and dropped people off. Within the first day or two, it got into a crash. And a year later, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or the other agency that looks at all kinds of crashes, whoever they are, said, well, we know the answer. And I said the whole time, everybody was blaming the self-driving shuttle. And I did a little bit of research and found out that actually a vehicle backed into the shuttle, a delivery truck backed into the shuttle, and that's how the crash happened. It was very minor and nobody got hurt. But it made national news all around the country. And I said, they had this billion-dollar, and probably wasn't a billion, but a multi-million-dollar self-driving shuttle that had all this crazy technology on board, and apparently it didn't have a horn. And what happened was it pulled up behind this truck, and this truck backed into it. But if it had a horn, it would have beeped the horn, and the truck driver would have heard it and stopped and not backed into it. But apparently it can drive itself down the road, it can avoid pedestrians, and it can stop, but it doesn't have a horn. I don't know if you noticed, and this is not a political statement, but if you noticed the North Korean guy when he was when Trump was out visiting, he was in a Maybach limousine. And sort of, you're not supposed to sell stuff to North Korea, apparently. And Daimler, the people that own Maybach, were among those who were puzzled to see that Kim and his entourage rode to meetings with President Trump and Russian President Putin this year in a Mercedes SUV and two hand-built Maybachs. The dictator's been spotted cruising around in a Rolls-Royce Phantom as well. An investigation by the New York Times and the Center for Advanced Defense Studies details a 4-month trip with stops in, that's how stuff happens. It stopped in 5 countries. It was taken by 2 armored Maybach sedans that were worth about $500,000 each. Their meandering journey began by road, sea, and air, and it actually began in 2018 in the Netherlands. And it's unclear who bought the cars originally and where. The report published last week said, but they arrived in Rotterdam by truck inside sealed containers. Then they traveled to 4 different ships, stopping at ports in China, Japan, and South Korea before apparently being airlifted from Russia into North Korea in October. At the same time, cargo planes that carry Kim's cars on foreign trips, South Korean authorities later seized a ship that took the cars to Russia on suspicion of sanctions violations. So, weird long trip for all that to happen. Our phone number is 617-770-3030, 617-770-3030. We don't have time to do trivia. We'll do that next week. I promise we'll be back in the studio. But if you want to call in right now, 617-770-3030. We'll be right back.
3 deuces and a 4-speed and a 389. Listen to her tacking up now. Listen to her whine. Come on and turn it on, wind it up, blow it out, GTO.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston. Remember, you can listen to previous programs on johnandpaul.podbean.com, or you can find us on, Google Car Doctor, and you'll find me or the guy in New Jersey, one or the other. And but you can find it on iHeart and Stitcher and TuneIn and whatever Apple calls their podcasts these days. And I think we have Dawn on the line. Good morning. You're on the Car Doctor program.
Yes, good morning. I have an '07 Dodge Caravan, and it has an issue when it starts. If I don't let the key stay at so the fuel pump is running before I kick on the ignition, it doesn't catch. It seems to be a delay. It'll just crank, and that's it. But it does start. It's just that there's this delay issue. I didn't know whether it's a crankshaft position sensor or a fuel pump that's losing its pressure.
Yeah, I would put a fuel pump gauge, fuel pressure gauge on it, and see if there's the fuel pump's getting a little bit tired, to see if there's too much fuel returning back to the fuel pump. So in other words, it's not charging up the fuel rail the way it should be. A crankshaft position sensor, it'll crank, and it won't make any difference if you leave the key on or off. To me, it sounds like what you're doing by holding the key on, turning it on the on position, is you're charging the fuel rail, and it really should only take about a half a crank for that fuel rail to get a full charge. So I want to say it's probably either a bad fuel pump, or it could be a bad line coming off the fuel rail.
Aha. The line, that's another thing.
So,
okay.
Okay, so maybe look at that, but I would want to find a way to hook a fuel pressure tester up to that, see what the fuel pressure is. As soon as you turn the key on, it should snap up to 40 or 50 pounds of fuel pressure, and if it's not doing that, it could be it does when it is running, and the van's quiet and it's all. Can you hear the fuel pump running?
No.
Okay, because some of those actually, as the pump started to fail, you could actually hear a little whir coming from the back of, because the pump's mounted right at the top of the tank. You can hear
it sounds normal. It sounds normal.
Okay, all right. But still, I'd want to check.
110,000 miles on it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be all that unusual to need a pump. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I trust your professionalism.
All right. Well, people have gotten trouble trusting me before, so.
I haven't.
All right.
You've been
all
good.
right. Okay. All right. You take care of yourself now. Let us know how you make out.
John.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, we have a couple minutes left, but I know our buddy Sully is in the studio.
How do you know that, since you're not here, since you're absent without leave?
I'm virtually here. It's not like I'm a recording.
Yeah, you sound good.
Yeah, it's
which unspecified bunker are you in today?
I'm in apparently the tornado capital of the East Coast.
Do you have power?
Cape Cod. Right? I have. Yeah, I was actually. My intention was I was going to come into the studio because I didn't think we had power or internet service, which I need both to actually be able to do this correctly. And I have a webcam that I keep here so I can look out the window and see what the weather's like. And
it must have been fun.
Well, it all it really showed was, oh look, it's a nice day. Oh look, it's raining. Oh look, it's raining a lot. And then all of a sudden it all went out. So I never actually got to see the tornado.
Yeah.
Which apparently was pretty intense.
Yeah.
I was fortunate that it just took down a tree in front of my house. So the electric company, when they hooked the wiring back up, which is why I'm here, because they were kind enough to hook the wires back up, left a whole bunch of tree in front of my house. So I'm hoping that down the street there's somebody with a big chipper and a bucket truck, and I hope I have enough money with me to be able to pay him to clean it up.
Well, it's funny because my yard was the epicenter of the Great Rentham tornado of 2004. You might remember that. And I lost, I think, 3 trees in my property. And literally a half hour after the tornado left town, there were 4 guys on my porch asking to cut the trees up. So
yeah, do you let them bid against each other?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
But that's the American spirit of entrepreneurship.
That's well, the guy who's here is actually from like your neck of the woods, either like Rentham or Hopkinton or somewhere out that way. At least that's what it says on the side of his truck. And he's here with a couple of trucks, and I think he actually tornado. Let's go down and see if we can make some money. And,
good for them.
And,
I love that.
Good for him. Yeah, it's a little ugly down here still, but for the most of the Cape. Come on down; it's beautiful, and enjoy your vacation. It's just my neighborhood is the only place that seems to be bad. So,
as always,
yeah. Well, that music means we need to step aside. The very best in Irish music is coming up with Paul Sullivan in the Irish Hit Parade, followed by Matt and the Bailey Cayley after that. So a great afternoon and evening of Irish music here on AM 950 WROL, the Spirit of Boston. Until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, and be good to your car. Talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.